Mausolus and his queen Artemisia ruled over Halicarnassus and the surrounding territory for 24 years. Though he descended from the local people, Mausolus spoke Greek and admired the Greek way of life and government. He founded many cities of Greek design along the coast and encouraged Greek democratic traditions. Mausolus's death. Then, in 353 BC, Mausolus died, leaving his queen Artemisia, who was also his sister, broken-hearted. It was the custom in Caria for the rulers to marry their own sisters. As a tribute to him, she decided to build him the most splendid tomb in the known world. It became a structure so famous that Maussolus's name is now associated with all the stately tombs throughout the world through the word mausoleum. The building, rich with statuary and carvings in relief, was so beautiful and unique it became one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Artemisia decided that no expense was to be spared in the building of the tomb. She sent messengers to Greece to find the most talented artists of the time. These included architects Satyros and Pythios, who designed the overall shape of the tomb. Other famous sculptors invited to contribute to the project were Bryaxis, Leocharis, Timotheus, and Scopas of Paros, who was responsible for rebuilding the temple of Artemis at Ephesus, another of the wonders. According to the historian Pliny, Bryaxis, Leocharis, Timotheus, and Scopas each took one side of the tomb to decorate. Joining these sculptors were also hundreds of other workmen and craftsmen. Together they finished the building in the styles of 3 different cultures: Egyptian, Greek, and Lycian. The tomb was erected on a hill overlooking the city. The whole structure sat in the center of an enclosed courtyard on a stone platform. A staircase flanked by stone lions led to the top of this platform. Along the outer wall of the courtyard were many statues depicting gods and goddesses. At each corner, stone warriors mounted on horseback guarded the tomb. At the center of the platform was the tomb itself, made mostly of marble. The structure rose as a square, tapering block to about 1/3 of the mausoleum's 140-foot height. This section was covered with relief sculpture showing action scenes from Greek myth and history. One part showed the battle of the centaurs with the Lapiths. Another depicted Greeks in combat with the Amazons, a race of warrior women. On top of this section of the tomb, 36 slim columns rose for another third of the height. Standing in between each column was another statue. Behind the columns was a solid block that carried the weight of the tomb's massive roof. The roof, which comprised most of the final third of the height, was in the form of a stepped pyramid with 24 levels. Perched on top was the tomb's penultimate work of sculpture, carved by Pythios. 4 massive horses pulling a chariot in which images of Mausolus and Artemisia rode. The city in crisis. Soon after the construction of the tomb started, Artemisia found herself in a crisis. Rhodes, an island in the Aegean Sea between Greece and Asia Minor, had been conquered by Mausolus. When the Rhodians heard of his death, they rebelled and Artemisia, okay, they just misspelled, hid her own ships at a secret location at the east end of the city's harbor. After troops from the Rhodian fleet disembarked to attack, Artemisia's fleet made a surprise raid, captured the Rhodian fleet, and towed it out to sea. Artemisia put her own soldiers on the invading ships and sailed them back to Rhodes. Fooled into thinking that the returning ships were their own victorious navy, the Rhodians failed to put up a defense, and the city was easily captured, quelling the rebellion. Artemisia lived only 2 years after the death of her husband. Both would be buried in the yet unfinished tomb. According to Pliny, the craftsmen decided to stay and finish the work on after their patron died, considering that it was once a memorial of their own fame and of the sculptor's art. The mausoleum overlooked the city of Halicarnassus for many centuries. It was untouched when the city fell to Alexander the Great in 334 BC, and was still undamaged after the attacks by pirates in 62 and 58 BC. It stood above the city ruins for some 17 centuries. Then a series of earthquakes in the 13th century shattered the columns and sent the stone chariot crashing to the ground. By 1404 AD, only the very base of the mausoleum was still recognizable. Destruction by the Crusaders. Crusaders, who had little respect for ancient culture, occupied the city from the 13th century onward and recycled much of the building stone into their own structures. In 1522, rumors of a Turkish invasion caused the Crusaders to strengthen the castle at Halicarnassus, which was by then known as Bodrum, and some of the remaining portions of the tomb were broken up and used within the castle walls. Indeed, sections of the polished marble from the tomb can still be seen there today. At this time, a party of knights entered the base of the monument and discovered the room containing a great coffin. Deciding it was too late to open it that day, the party returned the next morning to find the tomb and any treasure it may have contained plundered. The bodies of Maussollos and Artemisia were missing too. The knights claimed that Muslim villagers were responsible for the theft, but it is more likely that some of the Crusaders themselves plundered the graves. Before grounding much of the remaining sculpture of the mausoleum into lime for plaster, the knights removed several of the best works and mounted them in the Bodrum castle. There they stayed for 3 centuries. At that time, the British ambassador obtained several of the statues from the castle, which now reside in the British Museum. Remains located by Charles Newton. In 1846, the museum sent the archaeologist Charles Thomas Newton to search for more remains of the mausoleum. He had a difficult job. He didn't know the exact location of the tomb, and the cost of buying up all the small parcels of land in the area to look for it would have been astronomical. Instead, Newton studied the accounts of the ancient writers like Pliny to obtain the approximate size and location of the memorial, then bought a plot of land in the most likely location. Digging down, Newton explored the surrounding area through tunnels he dug under the surrounding plots. stone